Let's dive into something that's been a big deal forever: racism. Whether we like it or not, it's been a part of life everywhere, not just in the US. Even with all the progress we've made, racism still hangs around like that annoying neighbor you can't shake. Think about it like this: it's kind of like war. We've always had wars, and it seems like we'll always have racism too. Every country's got its stories, its struggles with this stuff. Today we're going to talk about something pretty bold: the top 7 most racist states in the US. Yeah, you heard me right. We'll dig into what makes these places stand out in terms of racial tension and what's behind all that. So, look at number 7, Arkansas. No surprises here. It's got a history of segregating education and faces criticism for underfunded, segregated schools that widen racial gaps. Accusations of voter suppression are also on the table. According to the Department of Justice, 68.4% of bias crimes in Arkansas target race and ancestry, with 21.1% aimed at sexual orientation. Interestingly, 0 crimes are reported based on gender identity. Maybe transgender folks steer clear of Arkansas. Number 6, Arizona. If you've road tripped out west, you've likely passed through it. Despite its large Hispanic population, Arizona faces serious racial tensions. Tough immigration laws stir controversy, seen as reflecting broader cultural and governmental attitudes. A striking 71.4% of bias crimes here target race, ethnicity, or ancestry. It's clear there's significant work needed to ensure everyone feels welcomed and safe. Number 5. North Carolina's had issues with African Americans, especially around voting rights. They're big on voter ID laws and cleaning up voter rolls, which sparks a lot of debate. Nearly 80% of bias crimes here target race and ancestry. They also see problems with crimes against sexual orientation, about 13.4%, and religion, 6.5%. Big cities here aren't as hung up on gender identity as some other places. Number 4, Georgia. In my opinion, Georgia's come a long way since the 1950s, especially among southern states. But it's had a rough history with discrimination against African Americans dating back to slavery days. Georgia's been in the hot seat for voter suppression, like strict ID laws and purging voter rolls, which stirred up a lot during the 2020 election drama. According to the Justice Department, bias crimes in Georgia break down like this: 67.3% target race or ancestry, 13.3% religion, and 12.2% sexual orientation. Surprisingly, 3.7% are against people with disabilities, and 2% focus on gender identity. Number 3, Louisiana. Louisiana's had a tough history with race relations, despite having a significant African American population. Discrimination in employment and housing is still a big issue here. Louisiana's criminal justice system is also known for being tough on people of color, which doesn't help matters. When it comes to bias crimes, Louisiana's stats break down like this: 67.5% target race or ancestry, 15% sexual orientation, 12.5% religion, and 2.5% disabilities. Interestingly, crimes based on gender identity are less than 1%. Cities like New Orleans might have a more tolerant vibe, but across the state, racial tensions are still a big deal. Number 2, Alabama has a rocky history with race relations, especially during the civil rights era. They had segregation laws until the 1960s, which tells you a lot. Recently, Alabama's gotten flack for tough immigration laws that some say are tinged with racism. It's like a stereotypical Deep South state in that regard. Bias crimes in Alabama break down like this: 78.6% target race or ancestry, 17.9% religion, and only 3% sexual orientation. They're not big on crimes related to disabilities or gender identity. They're more about where you're from and who you worship. Number 1, Magnolia State if you prefer. Mississippi's got a notorious history with racism, starting from slavery and going through the Jim Crow era. It's got the highest percentage of African Americans in the country, yet they still face discrimination in education, housing, and jobs. Mississippi's also known for racially motivated violence, including the tragic murders of civil rights activists in the 1960s. That dark past still hangs over the state. Bias crimes in Mississippi break down like this: a whopping 87.5% target race, while 12.5% target religion. Everything else? Less than 1%. Seems like they've got their priorities pretty clear. Mississippi's history and current issues show how deep-rooted these problems are in the state. For now, this is all. Please do like and subscribe to our channel. Make the background music silent.